All right, well, welcome back to video number 2 of week 3, the commercial revolution. This time we're going to look a little bit deeper into how they financed all this, because you need the money to make this all happen. So let's take a look. So we talked about the old world, new world, and how we were moving and exploring into the new world. And that gave rise to opportunities that allowed more trade to take place between Europe and the New World, while at the same time it's helping Europe sort of get time to build those relationships and those trade routes with the East that are still very important. But again, China and Japan have closed those regions mostly to very, very limited trade. So what problems did they face and what solutions did they have? Well, we looked at the need for ships, the need for better science, the need for protection on the seas. We need armies in the countries to be able to control what's going on inside the armies, inside these new regions, these colonies. There's a need for labor, and above all, there is this need for banking, finance, insurance, money. How is the world going to go around without money? Well, for science, we have the need for navigation, the need for cultivation, and the need for extraction. Well, where is that going to come from? Well, they opened up royal academies of science. These kings, these empires, they opened up these huge, sort of almost like universities that only focused on developing new ideas for cultivation and agriculture and harvesting and many other different devices, electricity, and how that's all is going to come out of these academies. England had one in London, Spain had one in Madrid, France had one as well. They're all, in fact, most of these are still up and running at this time. Ships, you need faster ships and bigger cargo ships. The more goods I can move, the faster I can move them, the more money I can make. I also need warships. I need navies. I need mobile armies. I need the ability to protect and fight against anybody that might damage or want to hurt my enterprise. But as I said, the money is the big one. So how do they get the money? How do they get the money? Well, if you think about it, in the past, under traditional history, a king, if he wants money, what does he do? Well, he taxes his people, the people that are under him, and they give him a certain percentage, whether it's a percentage of their crops or a percentage of their money, whatever it is, that's how he makes his money. Very little else gives money to the royal estate, so to speak. So the kings of this time, the people who are in charge of this time that are trying to take advantage of this new world, these new resources, have a little bit of a conundrum. What are they going to do to get more money? They can't just keep taxing their people. If they keep trying to do that, they're going to end up with a revolt. The people are going to get upset. In fact, we find out in just a little while that is exactly what happens. So what do they develop? Well, they develop this mercantile, fiscal, military state. Now, let me explain how this works, because you're going to have to explain this later on. So buckle up. Here we go. Ready? You have the king. The king's the head of the state, head of the country, head of the empire, whatever. Under him, he has his own little personal army. Most kings don't have huge armies at this time. These are just more like bodyguards, the people that are going to take care of the royal people, the aristocracy, so to speak. They have perhaps a little navy, maybe, and they have the courtiers. Those are the what we would call bootlickers. They're the ones that are sitting there trying to get something by being close to the king. They're the ones at the balls and things like that. That's the king's world. So he has just picked up these new lands, these new colonies, and he is the one who owns them at this time. He owns the 13 colonies. He owns the Spanish coastal regions of Western United States, what will be Western United States, Central America, and South America. They own the land, what it will be called Brazil. That's the Portuguese king and queen. So they own this. They have a monopoly. Nobody else can touch these regions. So what the king says is, he goes, well, what if I sort of like make an agreement with some company, a trading company, that they can have exclusive rights to my land, this particular portion of land, or this one or that one. I can sell it to them. They will do all the work for me, and they could just, give me a kickback coming after they start making money. Well, that's what the kings did. They decided that with this new land, this new colonies, these new settlements, they would sell monopolies, meaning mono is one. So this is one ownership. You can only, one person, one company has exclusive rights to whatever is going to be extracted, grown, whatever in that area. That trade belongs to that country. The British East Indian Company, that was one of these companies. And of course, these companies have their own couriers and their own bankers. The companies need investment. So the companies go to bankers and investors, financiers, entrepreneurs, have lots of money. And they say, I tell you what, you give me $100,000 for this venture, and I will give you a percentage of my profits that I make while I extract out of this monopoly. And the bank says, well, how do I know you're going to make money? And the company says, well, because the king gave me an exclusive right, an exclusive monopoly to this land. There's going to be no competition for it. Oh, great. Here's some money. Go ahead and take the money. And so the bankers and the companies start making money. Well, in the end, the companies then take money, a percentage of that profit that they're making, and they kick it back to the king. The king is now making money off of these trade monopolies. And when he is able to make the money, he can then invest in putting it into his armies, his navies, his shipbuilding, his science academies. He can put all that money back into his own country and build and build and build and become stronger and better and make more and more money. That's the mercantile fiscal state, fiscal military state system. You need to be able to explain this. So understand it and study it a little bit. Take some time to look it over. It's not that hard. So, new situations. What are some of the new situations that pop up? Well, some kings build up massive power, huge armies, huge navies, lots of money. Their treasury gets big and fat. More goods are being produced, and they're being produced at a cheaper cost, so they can be sold at a cheaper price. That means people are buying. They're buying more and more and more and more. The economies are starting to pick up. Bankers become vastly more powerful in world affairs now. Remember, they're the ones that are backing all of this. They're the ones that are keeping the wheels spinning, so to speak. So they're getting fat, making money off of the companies and off of the kings. Big companies are becoming even bigger companies. Those that are backed by the king are becoming bigger and fatter and advancing and improving. Little businesses, the little artisans back in the colonies that made shoes, or the woodworkers that made tables and chairs, they're starting to get pushed out. Why? Because you can't compete with somebody that is mass manufacturing product, that can whip it out so fast that the cost to the consumer, the buyer, is really cheap. So the artisans are starting to suffer from this sort of massive explosion on the grand commercial scheme. New markets are opening all around the world. People want products. They want sugar. Understand, sugar was not a thing in Europe until this time. And so now sugar comes back to Europe. What is sugar? Well, sugar is an addictive substance. They start having a little bit of it. They want more and more and more and more and more. So it's a self-fulfilling kind of commodity now. They're starting to make some good money. So we have sugar that's being introduced. Markets are going crazy. So over time, people, quote, beneath the king, the lower levels, start to feel like the king is cheating and abusing them. He's becoming a bit of a tyrannical type of a leader. And this is especially true within colonial regions. They feel disconnected. The aristocracy is getting richer without much trickle down. The money's not coming down to the commoner. And so that's starting to bug people. Again, commoners and lower class people are swallowed up economically and politically. People begin to desire more say in their governments and in their lives. They want to have greater control over it. And global communities are being changed dramatically forever. And that's on all different levels throughout all different areas of life. But there's still one last problem that we need to address. And that's the need for labor. And that's throughout the supply chain. And if you think about, well, how did the colonists sort of perform all this work? How did they make that happen? Well, they did it through slavery. Whether it was enslaving the native people that lived here already, whether it were people that came from Europe and enslaved themselves so they could have a better life. It might have been indentured servants, people who were owed money in Europe and were imprisoned. They came to the U.S., came to the colonies to sort of work off that debt. Or it was the people from Africa that were enslaved and bought and brought to the Americas to make that happen. And it's a really sensitive topic. So I want to spend a little bit of time delving into that. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to look at our next video. We're going to look at the Atlantic slave trade and the real history of slavery. So stand by.